A big win tonight for Hillary Clinton here in Arizona. I'm at her watch party where her supporters are excited about the outcome tonight and hopeful for her race to the White House.
And from sunrise to sundown, impressive voter turnout creates long lines at the polls for Valley residents looking to cast their ballots.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to this Cronkite News special covering Arizona's presidential preference election. I'm Alexis Solari.
And I'm Ben Marjat. Thanks for joining us. Let's start our coverage tonight with election results from Mauricio Casillas.
Thanks, Ben. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, of course, are the big winners here in Arizona. Let's take a look at the results. Donald Trump led the way for the Republicans with 47% of the vote, garnering 219,227. Ted Cruz in second place with 23%, and then John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, with 10%. It is important to note that Marco Rubio did garner some votes from the early ballots here in Arizona before he suspended his campaign. Now, on the other side of things, looking at the Democrats, again, big win for Hillary Clinton, 59% of the vote, and Bernie Sanders, 38% of the vote in Arizona. These numbers are with 83% of the precincts reporting, according to the Arizona Secretary of State. For more election coverage, visit cronkitenews.azpbs.org, and of course, be sure to check out our Storify for a compilation of everything going around in the state as election night comes to a close. Mauricio Casillas, Cronkite News.
Shortly after the Associated Press called the Arizona races tonight, both winners took to Twitter to thank their supporters here in Arizona.
Clinton tweeted a thank you to Arizona voters after her win was announced this evening.
And Trump soon followed up with voters here as well, saying the win was even bigger than he expected. Though he didn't make a public address tonight, Hillary Clinton did rally from a Washington state.
I'm also very proud to have won Arizona tonight. It's exciting to see that result come in because, Arizona, like Washington, like a lot of the states that are going to be expressing their views and counting their votes in the weeks ahead, understand that this is not just a contest between different candidates. This is a contest between fundamentally different views of our country, our values, and our future.
Our Cronkite News team is dedicated to covering the presidential preference election.
Reporter Julia Thatcher is out at the Arizona GOP watch party in Phoenix.
It was very interesting. It's not very often you find yourself in a room full of politicians and political junkies who don't want to talk politics, but that's exactly where I found myself tonight. And they said all this in an effort to create unity between the Republican Party and to not let the results tear them apart.
The GOP event, sponsored by the Ahwatukee Republican Women's Group, had projectors playing Fox News, whose reporters were eagerly waiting to share the results, but nobody at the watch party seemed to be too anxious. With polling places closed, their work was done.
And it's stereotypical old white male group, but there's a lot of us from all different ages, demographics, male, female, young, old. So we're just hoping to open everybody's eyes to the party as a whole.
Preferring not to promote one party candidate over another, supporters here instead talked turnout and the state GOP's effort to appeal to Arizona's biggest voting bloc, independents.
A lot of our independents are more conservative than the Republicans. They left the Republican Party years ago, and this has been a great motivation to kind of bring them back in. They've watched the party get healthy over the last few years, and now, here they're coming back, and they're coming back in force. It's been awesome.
Not everyone will walk away a winner tonight, and not everyone will see their preferred candidate get our state's support, but they're hoping that means unity for the Republican Party in the months ahead.
When you have 2 or 3 candidates now in Arizona that have a possibility of winning, people, if your person doesn't win, that can sometimes get you in a ruffle, and you want to try to bring people together.
I waited expecting a reaction after the results were announced, but was more surprised by the lack of reaction. Ben and Alexa.
A much different scene at a different Republican event tonight.
It was all hugs and laughter as Donald Trump supporters watched the results. Viewers gathered at Chambers on First, a downtown restaurant and bar. Those in attendance showed no fear of Trump losing Arizona, even before the numbers were in. And one supporter who was thrilled with the end result was Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who announced earlier in the election year his endorsement for Trump.
But it's a victory to continue to fight the illegal immigration problem and also the drug problem. He opened the door on illegal immigration. Nobody wanted to talk about it. He did it. Everybody's talking about it, which is good. Maybe we can get that problem resolved once and for all.
And over on the Democratic side, supporters are celebrating Hillary Clinton's victory over Bernie Sanders.
Cronkite News reporter Sydney Glenn is live at that watch party.
I'm at Bliss Rebar in downtown Phoenix, where I spoke to several Hillary Clinton supporters, all calling her a fighter, saying she won't be giving up. I even caught up with one of her friends from back in high school, who said she isn't surprised at all at where Hillary Clinton is today.
The number one reason that I'm so passionate about her is because she's resilient. If there was a word, it's resilient. She never gives up. She never quits.
That is the broad message that's really resonating with people. Is they need a fighter. They need someone with experience who can get things done. And Hillary is that person who can break down those barriers.
She was great then, and she's great now. Everybody else in the yearbook had 1 or 2 page numbers next to their name as far as things they did in high school. She had line after line. She was involved in so much, and she did everything well. So I'm so proud of her.
I believe that she really does have not just my interest, but the world's interest and every person's interest at best heart. And she's able to understand what is best for everybody and move that agenda forward.
Every time I think this watch party is starting to die down, Hillary Clinton supporters bring the energy back up by chanting her name. Live in downtown Phoenix, I'm Sydney Glenn, Cronkite News.
Bernie Sanders supporters who were at a watch party tonight in Phoenix to watch returns left their gathering about 2 hours ago.
They were actually headed back to the polls, concerned about voter fraud. Even as they questioned tonight's results, Sanders himself conceded the Arizona race in a speech in San Diego.
In Utah, tonight in Idaho, and tonight in Arizona, there are record-breaking turnouts in terms of voters.
This is why they could be concerned about problems at the polls. Take a look at this video. Lines to vote wrapping around 2 corners, and it just keeps going.
Polling places are still dealing with the extreme voter turnout, staying open hours later than originally planned. Cronkite News reporter Jackie Padilla spent time at one of the busy polling places where voters waited patiently to cast their ballots.
Hurry up and wait. That's something voters throughout Arizona experienced as they stood in line to cast their ballot for the presidential preference election.
God, I did wait in line for 3 hours. Did not expect that. But it was worth it.
With such a long wait, people found creative ways to pass the time.
Yeah, there's a lady in front of us who kept marking the whole process in chalk and just little notes to the rest of us. And when we reached about here, we hit about 71.
It was a lot of standing around, or in Victoria Byron's case, sitting.
Do you think people are jealous of your chairs?
Absolutely. We've been told that we're smart about 1,000,000 times. And it was really per chance that they were in my truck.
At 7 p.m., the polls closed, and this official had to turn away anyone who tried to get in line after that.
I don't go home till they're done.
Leaving hopeful voters disappointed.
They said, well, I'm at the end of the line, so that you didn't make it. So that was it.
But Pauline Begay, who was with her son, made it just in time to cast one of the last ballots.
The guy behind me said, the line is closed now. So we're like, everybody was like, all right, you made it. So everybody was hollering.
It was clear today that despite the long wait, many voters felt it was important to fulfill their civic duty. In downtown Phoenix, Jackie Padilla, Cronkite News.
Across the 60 polling precincts in Maricopa County, one in North Phoenix was so crowded, parking was scarce.
Volunteers were handing out water bottles to voters who had been waiting in line for hours.
I would really like to know why there are only 60 polling places for this election.
The longest I've ever waited in line is like 10 minutes, and that's in any election.
Voters filled the sidewalks this evening around the Church of Beatitudes in North Phoenix. The line reached around the church and down the street from 7th Avenue to 4th Avenue along Glendale Road, right as polls were closing at 7. Some voters were told wait times could reach up to 4 hours. However, everyone in line by 7 was guaranteed the opportunity to cast a ballot.
And those polling complaints are causing headaches for the county elections officials.
Jesse Schultz went to the Maricopa County Recorder and Elections Office to get some answers. Many people are looking for someone to blame due to the long lines and frustrations at polling sites around Maricopa County. Shortly after the office released early ballot results, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were already calling it a win, despite the fact that many people in Maricopa County were still waiting in lines to cast their vote. Officials from the office say they understand the frustration, but are just doing their job.
I'm just following what the law says, that we release the returns an hour after the polls close, and that's what we've done.
I completely understand if the totals are already posted online, that they can feel discouraged, but they should not.
The office says that despite some negative feedback, it plans to work on voter outreach by making polling sites and registration information more available and making sure independent voters know that they cannot vote in presidential preference elections. In the broadcast center, Jesse Schultz, Cronkite News.
Arizona isn't the only state hitting the polls today.
Cronkite News reporter Audrey Wheel takes a look at other national results.
They're calling this night Western Tuesday. In addition to Arizona's presidential preference election, both parties also voted in Utah. Democrats caucused in Idaho, no results yet, and Republicans in American Samoa are just starting their vote. And in Utah tonight, candidates from both parties continuing to advance their campaigns. Sanders takes the win for the Democrats, walking away with 73% of the vote. Clinton trails at 26%. And Cruz is leading the Republican race in Utah with 59%. It's a significant lead over the runner-up, John Kasich, at 22%. Trump is rounding out the bottom of those votes at 19%. The Republican race here in Arizona is winner-take-all when it comes to delegates, meaning Trump won all 58 delegates available. In Utah, 40 delegates are up for grabs. If one candidate takes more than half of them, he'll take all of them. Otherwise, the delegates are split proportionally between the three candidates. Meanwhile, 9 delegates are at stake in American Samoa. Unlike the Republicans, Democrats in Arizona split their delegates. Delegates are awarded proportionally according to the vote. The next primary is Saturday, just for Democrats, in Alaska, Washington, and Hawaii. Audrey Wheel, Cronkite News.
Long lines and early results from Arizona polling places.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll talk to 2 Arizona experts and get their opinions on this presidential preference election.
We are here tonight to explore tough issues.
You've got to have people around you who aren't just laying rose petals in front of your way.
And I kid you not, this is true.
Trust is everything.
This has been so much fun.
It's about reaching people.
There are more players on the world stage. The issues are more complex.
We ask the questions that take us closer to the truth.
What happened and what might happen.
Because that's what we do.
Would you like doing something like I do?
I couldn't do this. I'm not qualified.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
We have 2 guests joining us now to discuss the presidential preference election results and what the future is looking like for politics in Arizona.
Doug Cole is a Republican strategist and former top aide to Governor Fife Symington.
And Mario Diaz is a Democratic strategist and former chief of staff for Governor Janet Napolitano. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, so let's first talk about the long lines that we saw at polling places throughout the valley tonight. Now, Doug, is that a result of poor planning by state and county officials, or is there something more to that?
No, Alexa, I think what we can say today with great certainty that Arizona is relevant. Finally, we had all the major presidential candidates running through the state all weekend, running all over town, causing fistfights, traffic jams, and general mayhem. So we are relevant for the first time, I think, since we've had the presidential preference election primary that was established in the 90s for a benefit for a former Texas senator named Phil Gramm. So it's exciting. And I think the events over the weekend have really got Arizonans engaged. Now, could anybody have guessed that, okay, if we're going to have such an exciting and relevant time, should we've had more polling places? Well, those are decisions that are made months in advance. So there'll be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, but I think having the excitement and the lines, I think just adds to the process. So we're Arizona and we matter.
Interesting point. Thank you.
Mario, polling places, they had to stay open late for a few hours. Does the strong turnout help Democrats in the November general election?
There's so much energy for this election, and given that Bernie Sanders has really had an impact in this state with the younger voters, and Hillary Clinton's history in this state with her preceding her husband running the first time and winning, just brought out so many people. And this was not the time to be saving money. This was not a good move by the county recorder.
Now, Doug, and I'll ask you this next question. What is it in Donald Trump's message that resonates with so many Arizona Republicans?
Well, Alexa, I think what we're seeing here, and we're also seeing it over on the Democrat side to a smaller extent, is that in 2008, we were promised hope and change with the Obama administration. People really took that to heart. And I think that people have been disappointed. And I think they're just tired of Washington. They're tired of career politicians. They're tired of being told what they think the politicians, what they want to hear. And I think it's time, and they're just throwing up their hands and going, we're going with an outsider. I know he changes his positions on many things, but he's not one of them. He's more of one of us.
So something new, essentially.
Exactly, and we're seeing a seismic shift, I think, in the political spectrum. And I think political scientists 20, 30 years from now will go back and look and say, 2016 was a year that we will be studying, and so many things changed. I hope that's what happens.
Sure.
Speaking of career politicians, Bill Clinton, he was the last Democrat to win here in Arizona. What's it going to take for Hillary to find success here in November?
So I'll pick up where Doug left off. Trump voters are angry voters, and they're going for the USA is bad and we could make it better. Conversely, you look at Sanders' message, which was almost like a negative message. And Hillary is positive about the future, bringing the country together, and that has resonated. And I think that's going to carry through the summer all the way to the general election.
And Doug, do you think Arizona will stand firmly with the GOP regardless of nominee, or wage in a possible fight at the convention?
Well, we're going to have to see. I mean, tonight was a big night for Donald Trump. It was a big night for Hillary Clinton. What we don't know at this point is where Utah goes. Utah's a caucus state. And then all those ballots are counted by hand. So we may not know until early tomorrow morning where Utah goes, because the way it works in Utah is if Ted Cruz, which he was ahead in the polls, gets more than 50%, he'll get all 40 of Utah's delegates versus Trump's 58, so it'll be a net 18 for Trump tonight. So we really need to watch that race. But it depends upon how Trump moves forward, if he indeed is our nominee, and whether he moderates his message and moves towards the center. That's what normally happens in for Republican candidates. They start right and move more towards the center. So we'll just have to see how this thing plays out.
And lastly, Mario, you predicted that Hillary Clinton would lock up the nomination on the Democratic side April 19th in New York. With today's results, are you sticking by that?
No, I'm sticking by it. This election is just about complete. And so her challenge is going to be, while the Republicans are out fighting and getting the attention, how does she stay relevant? And I have a feeling that she'll know how to do that.
Mario, Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Alexis and Ben.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
In case you're just joining us, here's a look at the latest results from Arizona.
We'll have one last check-in with the Valley watch parties coming up.
We are here tonight to explore tough issues.
You've got to have people around you who aren't just laying rose petals in front of your way.
And I kid you not, this is true.
Trust is everything.
This has been so much fun.
It's about reaching people.
There are more players on the world stage. The issues are more complex.
We ask the questions that take us closer to the truth.
What happened and what might happen.
Because that's what we do.
Would you like doing something like I do?
I couldn't do this. I'm not qualified. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Hi, I'm Charlie Rose. As part of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at ASU, Arizona PBS is providing a state-of-the-art venue for the next generation of journalists. From newsrooms in Washington, Los Angeles, and here in Phoenix, students engage in real-time, real-world news reporting, broadcast production, and online innovation. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS working together in new ways to bridge the classroom to the community in the digital age.
This is the real thing. This is where we were born.
One of the amazing things about the history of life on Earth is it keeps learning new tricks.
The animals, plants, no, it gets in your blood.
Everything's interconnected.
We've got to begin to tell a new story, a story about interaction.
It's something that really touches my heart. There's just massive life everywhere. It's just magic.
Welcome back to this special edition of Cronkite News covering Arizona's presidential preference election. If you're just joining us, the big story tonight. After surprisingly long lines at polling places, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump came away with the victories.
Continuing our coverage, we now take you back to the Republican Watch Party, where Cronkite News reporter Julia Thatcher is standing by.
To wrap up what I saw here tonight at the Republican Watch Party, there was definitely a lot of high energy, definitely a lot of fun, and it definitely was not focused on tonight's elections. It was focused on the unity the Republican Party is looking to have and getting independent voters registered to get their voices heard. And following the last couple days of protests and rallies, it certainly was not what I was expecting and a little different than what Sydney Glenn is dealing with right now. So I'm Julia Thatcher, and Sydney, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thanks, Julia. About 100 people showed up to Bliss Rebar tonight to support Hillary Clinton, ranging from campaign officials, super volunteers to Arizona supporters. When the official call came in that Hillary took Arizona, there was loud cheers and hugs from everyone here. Live in downtown Phoenix, I'm Sydney Glenn, Cronkite News.
With the results coming in early here in Arizona, Cronkite News will continue to track this primary election, looking at factors like Latino and millennial voters and concerns about overrun polling locations and voter fraud. Mauricio Casillas, Cronkite News.
And elsewhere across the nation, the candidates are looking to the next presidential preference election. Democratic caucuses will be held in Washington, Alaska, and Hawaii this Saturday. The next big date for both primaries is Wisconsin on April 5th. Audrey Wheel, Cronkite News.
Immigration is a hot topic for candidates, but it's also the inspiration for two Arizona artists.
Cronkite News reporter Chloe Nordquist shows us how they're using art to promote a conversation about border issues.
This piece is called Undocumented. It basically is a statement on street art, graffiti, and immigration. I create art to tell stories.
Medina's pieces show the struggles of immigrants like himself. He is now a legal resident, but was undocumented when he immigrated to New York from Bolivia as a child. Medina's paintings and murals are on display throughout Arizona.
Murals is our first form of communication that we as human beings developed.
He's one of several artists who use their craft to spark a conversation about border issues.
My goal is to create dialogue, not necessarily to tell a person what to think, but to think, to get opposing views to look at the artwork.
Cabrales attended college in Arizona and has been an art instructor in multiple border cities. Right now, he's working with students at University of Texas, El Paso.
You have people like Donald Trump talking about how it's a war zone, and it's not.
Cabrales grew up in El Paso and crossed into Juarez often. He's inspired by that border experience.
One of the ones that I'm most proud of, I'm actually going to be showing it in Arizona this year, it's titled Juegos Fronteras, and it's Peace on Immigration, and it's using a playground as an analogy of border cities.
The hope is for this art to illuminate immigration issues beyond the border. In El Paso, Chloe Nordquist, Cronkite News.
That's it for this Cronkite News special covering Arizona's presidential preference election. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.